What's bonkin', everybody, and welcome to Take Your Time, a Persona 5 podcast where we play along Persona 5 Royal in real time, along with its in-game calendar dates. I'm Tom Marks, joined by my co-host, as always, by Jonathon Dornbush.
Tom, I'm on a different part of the screen, and I don't know what to do about it. I don't know where to look at you. Where are you? I can't find you.
I know, it's all very confusing, and this madness is caused by our very first special guest, Barrett Courtney. Barrett, how are you? Welcome.
It's bonkin' time, y'all. I'm so excited
yeah.
to be here. Thank you for so much for having me on what I could only describe as the world's longest spoiler cast ever. I'm excited to hang out and talk some Persona 5 Royal with y'all.
Yeah, that basically is what it is.
That's a really good description.
The most belabored, slow spoiler cast you could possibly imagine.
If we need like a back-of-the-box quote, if we put this out on, like a CD jewel case sort of thing, I'll make sure to put the world's longest spoiler cast on the background.
Yeah, exactly. You guys should be breaking world records, I think, by the end of this, right?
You would hope, but... we can just chain all the audio together. I think that counts, right?
Yeah, the Marks cut of the Persona 5
yes.
Royal Spice.
Hashtag release the Marks cut.
No, please. Cut it
Start
off
it trending.
Anything else?
Let's
talk about House instead, please. No, Barrett, for those who don't know, Barrett is one of our former coworkers, now at the lovely folks at Kinda Funny. A listener of the show, which is very flattering in itself, and we're very glad to have you. You just finished playing through Persona 5 Royal for a second time, right?
Yeah, I had started Persona 4 Golden for the very first time, streaming it at the very beginning of the year, and I got a dungeon in, and I was enjoying the story, but like mechanically, it was like one of those things. It just made me miss Persona 5 Royal because of all of the kind of quality of life things that Royal adds to the series. So I was like, you know what, we're gonna stop here, chat, and I'm just gonna replay the entirety of Persona 5 Royal and stream it all. And so yeah, I streamed through pretty much my entire playthrough, the second playthrough of Royal, and I streamed it from like the middle of February, and then I finished at like the very beginning of June. So not quite as expansive as what you guys did, or going through the full entire year, but it still took like a good 4 months. So yeah, it's been a couple months, and even though it's only been a couple months since I had finished my second playthrough, every week when I listen to this podcast, I think to myself, man, what if I just start playing Persona 5 Royal again? Because every time, the moments that I remember and love that you guys talk about, the things that I had no idea about, even though this is my favorite game of all time, there's still so much that I haven't seen personally. And the things that y'all bring up every week, I'm like, man, this game is just so special and so expansive. So, that's where I'm at. And last year when it originally came out, I binged through it in a little less than a month, and had a lot of emotional feelings when it came to this game. So
it is certainly an emotional one, and we're going into quite an emotional week, or at least because this week we're talking about Futaba's Palace finally. So we're digging into that, which is, I think, kind of one of the reasons we lined it up to have you on this week, right, Barrett? Is because Futaba is a favorite of yours.
Yes, and we will talk about that later. I will say Futaba is, we'll get into the weeds. Futaba is best girl, but not best girl to date, if that makes sense. Like, I think she is the best female character, and I love her a lot, and I love her story a lot. And in the base game, when I originally played Persona 5 back in 2017, it was her palace, where I realized, oh, I'm in love with this game, and this story specifically means a lot to me. But we'll get into the reasons of why I don't think people should romance Futaba, but that's a later conversation. So.
Yes, that's a whole can of worms that we can open up in a little bit. First, though, let's do some housekeeping from last time. We did have a pop quiz from last week that we got one correct answer for in the comments of the YouTube Darnology YouTube channel. So the question last week was, in his 9th level confidant scene, what does Ryuji suggest they grill while at the manja shop when they run out of manja? Did either of you guys have a guess for this question? I mean, it's a little farther away for Barrett.
Yeah, I was going to let Barrett guess first.
The one that I could think about, just because it's Ryuji, my big blonde himbo boy, is that he throws out of like, maybe we could grill boss's curry or something like that. Like I could see Ryuji saying something like that, but I
could see that too.
I don't think
Yeah.
it's correct.
Jonathan?
I completely forget because,
That's fair.
Tom, as it is, I finished this Confidant chain so much earlier than you. So, it's just, it kind of escapes my memory, but what are you going to do?
Oh, wow. Okay. That's fair. That's fair.
Look, when I'm not hosting, I get to be the heel. It's great. As I'm known for always.
And when you're hosting, you also get to be the heel. It's
I'm
great.
still the heel. Yeah, I still make it all about house, so it works out either way.
No, so immediately getting this back on the rails, the Ryuji suggests that they grill toothpicks. Why? I have no clue, because he's a weirdo.
Yep, that doesn't make any sense.
Yes,
man.
but Mitch got this right. Is actually Mitch's comment just said toothpicks with an exclamation point and no other explanation, and was the first comment on the video.
That's
Which is
amazing.
just great. I think
Anyone
that's very
who's
funny.
catching up on this series later is going to go to it, and if they don't know that answer, are going to be very confused. But yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. The last thing we want to do with housekeeping was you both, I'm very jealous, have some show and tell to show off.
I'll let Barrett go first as our
Yeah,
guest.
please.
Yeah, so through I think it's I am 8-bit, right?
Yes.
Dorno. They were releasing the Persona 5 Royal original soundtrack on vinyl. I know in Discord I am flipped, so it doesn't look great. I don't know if Dorno fixed that but yeah, it comes with all of the original music from Royal specifically. So no original Persona 5 music is on here. It's all the new tracks from Royal. It comes with 3 vinyls back to back, so you got all the way from side A to side F. I immediately went to the 3rd vinyl, loaded up side E to listen to I Believe, because that is a very great song. And then you go up here, it's just very stylish. You got the calendar in the middle that actually like dates specific events, like the cultural festival. We got the fireworks festival over here whenever you're taking exams, all of that stuff. And it also tells you of like what the weather is going to be like for each day. So if you somehow have this and like are doing like a blind playthrough or don't remember like what the seasons are going to be like weather-wise, you can open this bad boy up and be like, all right, like when's flu season? When can I go into Mementos and like really grind some levels during flu season? Or like, oh, like when's the Hawaii trip? So I know that like maybe I should get some things done before we go to Hawaii and stuff like that. So yeah, it's great. It comes with each vinyl also comes in like these gold cases as well, these gold sleeves, and they all have like different on this side you have like the actual characters, and on the other side it's like what they look like when they're in the cognitive world. Really cool stuff. I love it a lot. And yeah, I love collecting vinyls. It was very scary though when we pre-ordered this. They were just like sometime in the summer.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, cool. When? And then it was really scary. I think it was last week where I got an email from FedEx being like, "Oh, your order is shipped." And then I went to the FedEx site and it was like, "We printed a label. When is it coming?" Whenever. It's like, oh gosh, I hope this doesn't get lost.
That's the worst point of ever looking at deliveries. I'm like, should they maybe wait until after they've printed the label? Because that step doesn't reassure you at all that you're going to get your package. But yeah, it's a really cool vinyl. It's I Am 8-Bit also did a base Persona 5 one a ways back that our patron saint Andrew Goldfarb had unboxed on IGN way back in the day, and it was I think each album cover, like the cases that they were in, was the different suit, like their outfits in real life versus their cognitive world outfits as well. So yeah, it's a really cool design that they have.
Yeah, they do good stuff too. Not that this is like sponsored or anything.
Hashtag
not that this
not
show
mad.
is big, not nearly big enough to get sponsored. But
I think we know who the real sponsor of the show is, and it's House MD.
all right, then. Well, let's get into the week.
Fox.
Hugh Laurie, just out of his own pocket, has been paying
man.
me to sponsor this show. It's wild, but you know.
What did I expect when we invited you on? Like, what did I? This is our own
Chaos.
doing. Anyway, we are going through the dates of August 9th through August 15th. This is the 3rd and final full free week of Futaba's palace. We do have kind of one more, I think it's like 5 days of next week are free, and then it gets into the end of the palace stuff, which is ripe and juicy with story. But we're kicking things off with August 9th, and I believe we probably are going to go right into the palace discussion. Also, I guess we should really quickly address this before I ask Jonathan what he did. Barrett is a crazy person and is just extra, and he loaded up his Persona 5 Royal save file to look back at the calendar to see what he did on these dates, which is
amazing.
Hey, I knew we were talking about
free.
free time today, and I was like, I can't just bring nothing to that part of the conversation. I can easily download this game, load up my save from a couple months ago, and then just go into the last save file before the end of the game, right? And just go back a couple months in the calendar. Did I get specifics of like what these activities like specifically did for specific people when I hung out with confidants? Absolutely not. So like, I'll be able to give you a general idea of what I did, but like if I leveled someone up, I have no idea.
Well, that's enough. That's more than enough. Especially because I think we've got so much to talk about with the palace that we want to dig into that we're probably going to be spending a little less time on the free week anyway.
Exactly.
Jonathan, let's start with you. August 9th.
Yeah, well, most importantly, obviously, I spent the evening cleaning up the cafe while Kawakami made lockpicks for me, and I don't really think we need to talk about it. No, I went to the palace on August 9th. So, yeah, I started out the week. I knew that we were going into this week to do it. I wanted to get it out of the way as quickly as possible in case there was some stuff that was gated by finishing it versus not during the free time. Even though I know we've sort of debated every time we do a palace whether or not that could actually happen. But
it's funny because I feel like this week or this palace has been the biggest disparity between you and me in terms of when we've gone. I went like right away and you have been waiting, and like as a result we've very directly been able to see like what I did get access to or didn't get access to in certain things. But yeah, so you're finally there. And I mean, should we just dive into this one? Because it's like you were saying before the show, it's a little bit of a doozy.
Yeah, I think so. It's definitely, I think, the palace I've spent the most time in so far in the game. I don't know if that is out of character. That's what I kind of love about doing the show is like, obviously Barrett and I, like, we talked about the game a lot when we were playing it in the office for the base game, but it's one of those things where we didn't talk in this much detail, obviously, because we didn't carve out an hour per week to talk about the game. And so sometimes I'm like, am I playing badly? Am I doing things wrong? Like, I don't know along those lines, but I spent a ton of time with this palace and loved it. Like, I think it's probably my favorite palace so far. But yeah, it was one of those ones where there's a lot to dig into, I think, like across the board. So we should probably just jump right into it. Yeah.
Well, let's start with general top level impressions, because you said it's probably your favorite so far. But like generally speaking, like how do you feel about this palace? Do you like it? Do you not like it? That sort of stuff.
Yeah. To start off on my end, I think, and because I want to let Barrett be able to jump in on it, but for me, it's, I think, my favorite so far, because I think it's a really great blend of combat opportunities, level layout, and puzzles, but like not just the sort of JRPG dungeon puzzles that we've talked about before. Like there is some of that for sure, but there's a lot of logistically just trying to figure out how to get around, and there's a little bit of frustration that can come from that as a result. I think, like, because it is probably the most ambitious palace so far, it is also the one where you can have the most issues, and I had it a little less this time, but I definitely would really frequently get lost the last time around, and without spoiling it too much, it would often be because, like, as I'm just trying to, like, oh, I forgot to go pick up this thing over there, so I'm going to run back around and go get that. But oops, I jumped off just the wrong ledge because there was a small area over here where you could jump off a ledge to another area, and so I had to run back up again. Like, that could happen a few times, so there's, I think, more room for error like that as a player. Sure. But I think it's the coolest palace so far, even though it's a really interesting one by design because it is essentially just you're in a pyramid. But the way that it's laid out and the way that it ties into Futaba's story, I think, is also the strongest so far. And part of that is because of this being a really interesting palace, that it is not a villain we're going after. We're not trying to change an evil person. We're trying to help confused or a misguided person who we care about, even if we don't know them too well just yet. But yeah, I like it a lot.
Yeah. Barrett, how about you? How does your memory of this palace hold up, at least?
I mean, on like the most recent playthrough, it was one of those things of going through it, kind of a third time, right? Second time in Royal, third time since the base game. It just reinforced of like how good, how much I loved the palace from the beginning, from the first time I ever went through it. And yeah, like I remember the first time, like aesthetically, like the Aztec kind of pyramid tomb kind of visuals. I remember at first not being as in love with like of course like Kamoshida's palace and even like Matarame's art museum and stuff. But then like the further I got into it and realizing more of like what it meant for Futaba's story and her themes and stuff, and I think how it all ties together. It really solidifies just how strong this palace is. I think thematically, it all just hits on every cylinder. Whereas I think the most recent palace that y'all just went through, Kanashiro's, kind of misses some steps there in aesthetics and some things coming together with Kanashiro as an antagonist. And just because this is such a different palace, it just obviously stands out a lot. Of course, Futaba is not a villain. She is just someone who has a very warped cognition of her reality. And so that's, I think, story-wise, that's what makes it very interesting. I think also just like going through it and battle-wise as well, like of course there's kind of difficulty spikes throughout the first three palaces here and there, usually with mini-bosses or actual boss fights. But I feel like Futaba's was definitely at this point of the game, like consistently the most challenging when it comes to some specific fights, trying to get into the palace and stuff like that. And I'm pulling up on my end, just listening to the music as well, which I personally love. There's just like this groovy vibe to it, but it's also kind of sad, and it's just like, yeah, I'm sad, but I'm grooving, and here we are, and that's just my entire emotional state while playing Persona 5.
Yeah, it's Persona 5 in a nutshell. Sad but grooving.
And I think I generally agree with both of you. I think the puzzles in this one are a little more sophisticated, a little bit more like involved than
it's
just
less
like,
turn off switch, you solved puzzle, and more
right.
of like, all right, you got to take this thing and find out like where to put it in this certain area.
Yeah, not that that's like the peak of complexity, but it makes you think a little more. It doesn't. It's less just sort of like paint by numbers a little bit. And then also on the other side, I agree. I had less trouble with it this time just because I kind of knew what to expect. But like, this is the difficulty wise, I think you're right, Barrett, because like, this is the first palace where like there's insta-kill moves. And it's like, oh, if you don't beat Anubis, who is this very high health enemy, like they could just kill you instantly, and you just lose. Like that's a part of Persona that is, I don't want to say this in like a judgmental way, but like it is kind of a remnant of the roots of Persona, right? Like the Shin Megami Tensei games and the earlier Persona games, which were like sort of notoriously difficult. And I feel like it's not really as much the focus of Persona 5 now, but there are still these kind of insta-kill moves hidden in there where it's like, oh, if one of those insta-kill curse moves just like happens to hit Joker, like congrats, you lost, right? And it's like, that's brutal. That is really brutal, and it can hit you out of nowhere if you're not prepared for it.
I was so thankful there. Like the amount of curse insta-kills that failed on me during this run was I was legitimately scared so many times. I saved because I had that in my mind now, knowing that after playing it the first time, like I was going to save rooms pretty frequently just to make sure I was safe. And boy, were there like so many where it just completely missed, and I had to breathe a sigh of relief almost after every major battle, because I felt like I was on a very, very lucky spree, whereas I remember a few more insta-kills happening the last time around.
Well, Royal also does this thing, I don't know if you've had this experience, but Royal puts homunculi, which are the item that if you get insta-kill, or if you would die, it like saves you.
Yeah.
in chests in Mementos now. And so, like, going into this palace, I had, like, 2 or 3 homunculus, whereas usually you don't get those until, like, they're either really expensive or you get them later in the game. So, like, I think they thought about that a little bit with this palace.
Yeah.
The other thing I really do like about this palace is the structure, and we're going to get into that soon, but, like, the whole idea that the very first time you go into it, you just walk straight up this staircase all the way to the final door and then get knocked out of it and get kicked all the way back out, and you see all these doors closing, and then now your whole job is to open these doors one by one and go back up this staircase. I think it's different from a lot of the other palaces, or from the other palaces you've seen so far and the ones that come after it, and it is a really kind of neat structure. It kind of is like Kanashiro's safe vault thing, but, like, less sort of, like, because it shows you the end before you start at the beginning, you kind of have a target in mind that's a lot more achievable. I just really like this palace. And interestingly, also, another thing that it does is, because it's such a big palace in this desert, it starts, let's start at the top, outside of the palace, where you have Futaba's shadow, who is, like, both trying to help you and not trying to help you, and is very conflicted in her own right, which is interesting, sending you off to a nearby town, right, to find this thing that a thief stole, that ends up actually just being the map. But this town section is, like, it's very unlike anything in any other palace, right, where you're, like, leaving what is ostensibly the palace to go to a different location within the metaverse.
I was completely confused for a minute, because I genuinely, like, it's been so long since I played, so we're gonna probably run into these encounters more and more. Like, for full disclosure, I know I have beaten all the palaces after Futaba's palace. It's the last one that really, like, stuck with me, that I can, like, recall the entire machinations of. Going forward, I have, like, little bits and pieces, but could not tell you really, like, the gist of most palaces. So I'm excited to go through all that. But yeah, I completely forgot about the town section, I think, because everything that comes after is so much more important. So I had this really panic moment where I almost texted you, Tom, to be like, is this new and royal, or have I just gone crazy? Like, I was having this real crisis of faith of, like, why don't I... And it just took a few minutes, and it eventually kicked in. I was like, oh yeah, this was part of it. But it is really out of character in an interesting way.
And it's brief, to be fair, too. It's pretty quick. And you never go back there. So it's not like it's this, like, crucial part of the level. It's just, like, an odd way to kick things off.
But I think it reinforces, because I think y'all were talking about either last week or the week before, kind of like the beginning point of being introduced to this palace and then being kicked out later, right? And just where you load in at first into this palace, you have to, like, go across an entire desert just to get to the palace, and that shows off, like, how isolated Futaba feels. And I do think this is also, like, kind of reinforces that of, like, even though it's a nearby town, you still have to go a little ways away. And then when you get there, it kind of is reminiscent of their neighborhood, and it feels just so, it is deserted and lifeless. And it's another reinforcement of kind of how she sees everything outside of just her room, which again, it's just like a little moment. It's not like this, like you said, this like a big kind of moment in the palace, but I thought that was like a nice little reinforcement before we get into, like, the big stuff, right?
Yeah. It basically, it's a little bit of a chance to do, I guess, a slight bit of grinding, and then you have the chase puzzle, which is this is really silly, but it only makes me think of, like, there's several of these in Spyro the Dragon where you essentially have to get the right path to be able to chase down a guy. And so I was having these weird flashbacks of, like, I'm playing a different game right now. But it's, I totally think you hit the nail on the head, Barrett. It helps to reinforce the themes that are at work. And I think that's why this palace, like, not to speak for you guys, but I think that's why, for me, at least personally, it sticks with me so much, is because a lot of it really enforces things about Futaba's character that at the end of the day, she is then a character that becomes a bigger part of the story. I think without spoilers, that's fair to say, people can assume by the end of this palace. But yeah, it's I really like it. Anyway, let's go back.
Yeah. From there, you head back to the palace itself. You talk to Futaba. She says that the thing you retrieved is the map of the palace. So it's this kind of weird, like, her vibe the whole time is very odd and very different and very, like, especially very different from any of the other palace rulers who are just angry, awful humans who want to kill you, basically. And in this one, she's, like, sending traps after you and, like, enemies after you, but also it's, like, it's kind of gives the sense that this is, like, her defenses going up rather than, like, her actively attacking you.
Right.
Which literally happens because a trapdoor drops you into a pit full of sand. And Jonathon, this is the part where I completely agree that it is, like, this section is in my opinion, the worst part of the palace.
Where you're, it's like, what, like 3 different levels all in the same room. There's like 4 different paths on like each level that you can get to, and like
nothing's connected,
and it's like, it's very confusing how this room is structured. And when you brought that up, Dorno, of like kind of being confused and lost, I immediately thought of this room. Because I remember on my recent playthrough, and I was just like, all right, am I trying to go here? Okay, I guess I found a treasure chest. I guess that's cool. But, like, where am I supposed to go?
It feels like a microcosm of the palace at large, but, like, not in a good way. It turns out shrinking this palace down to a single room makes it not good. But, yeah, it's definitely one of those rooms where, like, I guess you could maybe take 2 or 3 turns and get to the right door to keep going forward, but why are you exploring a palace then? You want to find every bit of it. You want to be able to, encounter as many personas as possible, get the chests, explore everything. And there are just like all these moments where you're like, is it okay to jump down there? If I jump down there, do I have to go all the way back around? Will that jump lead to something important, or have I been down there before? I don't know anymore.
Yeah.
I'm just going to keep going.
And the map doesn't help, right?
Yes, yeah.
Persona 5's maps are generally pretty useful and pretty fine and good and clear. They break down when you get into multiple level sections, and then this breaks down even further when it's like 3 levels, but they're not full floors. They're just little like paths that
it shows off like how insane this specific room is. Like it turned into like as helpful as like the control map almost, where you're just like, where am I right now? Like what is happening?
I needed like real life exit signs to be able to help me out in this part of the palace.
Right.
But it's not the best introductory sequence for sure. Once we're in like the actual palace this time, but things open up and I think improve pretty quickly from there.
I mean, I think you could argue that flavor-wise, it feels like a pit of quicksand that you cannot escape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe thematically that's what they were going
for. Yeah, like just like the, not understanding where to go. Again, we might be reaching here a little bit, but that might be like what they were trying to go for, and putting the player more into Futaba's shoes and getting an understanding of how she feels about everything.
Right.
But as we may not be reaching, because as we know, literally almost everything in this game has a meaning, so...
I was going to say, look, we're doing a year-long show digging into this single RPG. I think we're going to reach now and then, so it's fine. But yeah, I would agree with you on that. Yeah.
So as you leave that section, though, a very funny thing happens that I love, which is you pass a door with like a big evil shadow, and you try to walk towards it, and you're just like, maybe we shouldn't do that right now. And then you have to like leave and go back up the stairs to get outside, and then they're like, okay, now go back in and fight it. And I think that was just to like make sure you knew that like that was the equivalent of giving you that exit to the safe room, and then you go back in.
I could have sworn, and I remember playing this in the original, when I played this a few months ago, like I thought maybe in the original version, like the game does make you leave the palace at that moment, but I guess not. Like, yeah, I guess maybe in my playthrough, like I left at that moment and then just like went back to do that fight because the game told me like, hey, you might not want to fight this man right now. So
I think it does.
Okay.
I think you are correct that it probably is a vestige of the original, because the entire next section of the palace where you go back and you fight that guy and you go through these sort of like series of like ballista wall shooting puzzles and like picking up gems that make dudes pop out of coffins or sarcophagus puzzles.
Yeah.
That whole section until you reach the stairs again, I believe is completely exclusive to Royal. So I think that they've like added that, they kind of inserted that section in, and so they like make you backtrack back like up the stairs and then back down. At least I might be wrong about that, but I didn't remember that in Royal, and it uses the grappling hook a lot. So I was gonna in the base game, and
I was gonna look it up. It felt new, so you saying that makes me feel less silly. But yeah, I'm gonna check that out.
I feel like I remember this. Yeah, it's been 4 years at this point since I played the base game, but whenever I went through that, it didn't feel super new. But yeah, there is a lot of grappling hook stuff there. So I guess like if it is new, I guess I wouldn't be surprised about that. But for some reason, I do remember the dudes popping out and me being like, oh God, like why is this happening to me?
Right, and I think one of the interesting things about this section right after the trapdoor section, and we don't have to linger on it long because it's pretty simple and pretty quick, but like it's basically just introducing ideas that come up in the palace later more slowly. So it introduces you to this ballista idea, it introduces you to the lights opening the doors idea, it introduces you to picking up gems will make enemies appear, right? All of those are concepts that are then fleshed out a little more later on, and it's just sort of like introductory at this point. But after you get through that section, whether it's new or not, I might be wrong, you get to the stairs themselves, and this is the bulk of what I remember about this palace, right? Is that there's this 3-tiered section of stairs where there's 3 sort of discrete areas that when you complete them, you have to do one of those sliding picture puzzles to complete a thing, get a little bit of story from Futaba, open the door, and go to the next area. And this is...
I will say, looking at a couple guides, I think it existed in the past game, but has been modified a little bit. The hard part is most sites have updated their Persona 5 guides to include Royal content, so it's a little hard to know where those additions all were. But I think it's something to, like you were saying, it's there are additions in there based on the grappling hook and whatnot.
Right.
And also the fact, like, you could kind of ignore that section almost. Like, you can... It's easy to have.
It's really easy to kind of run through.
Yeah. So.
Well, let me know in the comments if you have a definitive answer about that. But yeah, so the first of these stair sections is what I've marked as the curse gem section, which is this whole sort of area where if you walk past these spikes or like certain walls, spikes will come up or arrows will shoot out of them, and yeah. That was for the people watching the video, Jonathon just did a very good impression of. There you go.
Yeah, it's great. This is acting, if you will. But
yes. So you get these gems though that you need to bring the gems to different places. But if you are holding the gem, then like you can't go down certain paths. So it's this sort of like the puzzle of like, well, when you need to be holding the gem, when you need to put it down, and that sort of thing. I think that's all I mainly remember from that first section, though.
Yeah,
Beyond that, and the like random. The other thing I do remember is that this game does not hold back on you early for just like fights like Anubis or fights like I can't remember the name of it, but like the coffin god.
Yeah, the coffin looking thing.
Who just will like summon dudes and use the rat effect on you, and it's like that's the first time you get rattled. Which is one of my favorite play-on words in this game.
I think the beginning is... I think things ramp up, like as any good palace kind of should. I think this beginning section, it's introducing that concept to you, and that stuff gets more complex as you go along. But yeah, I think it does a really good job of setting the stage for that. And as Barrett was saying earlier, like, pretty much from minute 1, these are... Even the normal fights are... pretty difficult, not in like an impossible way, but you really need to have a good spread of skills on Joker's personas. You got to make sure the team that you have with you has, I think, a good balance of defensive and offensive moves. Like, you can't, it's hard to brute force these and not play a little bit tactically.
There's definitely a balance, and then that goes even further for like the will seed portions of these fights as well, because I think, you know, like you were saying, Tom, like Persona 5 especially isn't the most difficult game. So I think it was this palace was the first time I had died in my most recent playthrough, because I think it was like the 3rd will seed fight where it was just like they were not holding back whatsoever. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I definitely underestimated this fight going in, and it was a rough one.
that fight, that Willseed fight, the like Willseed guard or whatever in this one is brutal. It is really, really easy to just like get clapped and not realize it, right? Like just absolutely decked in one hit, and you're like, oh, this is what we're doing. Okay, this is let me recalibrate here.
Yeah, let me actually think about this fight.
Yeah, that one wrecked me as well. I think that was my first death that I can remember, but thankfully I was saving pretty frequently, so it didn't burn too much. But,
and I think like I forget if this is like a Royal Edition or not, but like even with those fights, I think it just lets you like load up at the beginning of that fight if you feel confident of like what you have in that moment, but you just have to think a little more strategically. You can like load up at the beginning, so that's a little helpful as well.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah, that's, I forget if that's new as well, but it feels like I use it more here. I also, in my base playthrough of Persona 5, I went down to easy for a little bit just because of like a future palace where there's a lot of insta-killing. And that lets you basically just revive Joker mid-battle and keep going, which is a nice feature if people don't want to have to deal with this over and over. But yeah, there was kind of like I'm going to beat them. I know I can do this. And so I'd have to restart the battle. Anyway.
Also, this is a tangent, but a quick tangent, just really quick. I think that any RPG that is a party-based RPG where if the hero dies, you just instantly lose is bullshit. I think it is bad, old mechanic. I think it has no place in anything, especially when you have literally characters on your team whose whole job is to be the healer, and it's like, oh, well, they can't heal anymore because they can't take orders from the guy who's
exactly.
dead. Like,
they can't think for themselves, Tom. If we die, there's no one to tell them what to do. All right, and that's just the reality of it. Okay.
I literally have them all set to direct commands. They should be able to hear me. I'm the one talking, not him. I'm totally with you. It is one of the more
this
frustrating
game at all.
things. No,
right?
But
it's fine. It's just like, and it's not a sin of Persona alone. Lots of RPGs do this, and I think every time it comes up, I'm like, this is like, come on, this is like save points, right? Like it doesn't make sense anymore. And Persona uses save points in a smart way, right? Where like that's part of the challenge is the endurance of the palace. But then outside of a palace, it just lets you save because save points are dumb. Like,
but
that's so.
I think the biggest problem with it, especially with this, like you were saying, having a party that you can specialize them in certain ways and whatnot, it's just the fact of like it's out of your control. Like I can't decide who the enemy is going to target, and so when it does an insta kill attack on Joker and then I'm screwed, it's like, well, there's literally no way I could know that would happen that turn.
Yeah. It's just a gamble at that point. It's just like, well, did I get lucky? No, I didn't. Okay. But moving on, let's talk about the story stuff kind of after we go through the gameplay sections. The second section in this stairway section is the one that I remember best kind of from all of these, which is the giant rolling ball section, but then also it's the like weird Death Star, red and blue Death Star holograms that you have to like press the buttons to make certain ones light up in different ways to open certain doors or do certain puzzle things, which is, it gives you like binary, right? Like it gives you a series of binary that you then have to put into the right buttons. And it's not like the most complex thing in the world, but it is cute and it's thematic to Futaba's like hacking sort of style. I remember this fondly, and I remember the giant rolling balls as like being a very funny sort of moment. Where you
break the entire mechanism. You're like, okay, I guess we'll just run on top of these guys. Yeah, I love it. Please comment below what those weird Death Star hologram things are, because that's also what I think of when I see them. I'm like,
I thought they were holograms of the balls.
Oh, maybe. But they have like weird designs on them too, which I was like,
they just look like Death Stars.
There's the design on them, and it's kind of throughout the palace that is like the circles that have the lines going off of them that only make me think it's the number 69. Like every time I see it, I'm like, why did they just randomly drop 69 all over this palace? It's very strange. But that I guess I never thought about it, but maybe them being those giant balls would make sense, but I had no idea what they were.
And I think it's around this area too where one of the will seeds has been added as well, which I remember. Like you have to do like another binary code thing to get in there, and while those aren't like the most like you have to think a lot about that puzzle. again, thematically, I think they do a really good job of connecting it all together.
Yeah, there's that like red door kind of off to the side in that
Yeah.
room that you have to be able to go through, and you can miss the tablet to get the numbers for it if you're not.
Yeah,
so,
I would say this is so far, just on the topic of will seats, I like you guys have been saying for each palace, like it is one of those things where if you're doing a good job of making sure to explore like everywhere in the palace, like they're pretty easy to come by, and they're pretty obvious of where they are. I would say this is kind of, again, like we've been saying with this palace, of just like overall kind of a more of a difficulty spike with fights and puzzles, I guess. But this is also, I think, the first palace where you really got to look out for the will seeds and really pay attention, or you can easily miss them.
Yeah, they're a little trickier. The final area is this area where you go into a huge room with these large statues, right? And then you kind of immediately leave it. And you go into a section which is all about, like, building these light bridges, right? You have to, like, summon these light bridges that you then run across to get to different areas. And then eventually you climb back over the statues to get to where you need to go. This area also has one of my favorite parts, which is it gives you a safe room just like in a random corner of a hallway right before a hard fight, and it like must have been that they were doing testing and people were just getting absolutely destroyed at that fight and frustrated, and they were just like, just put a safe room right there, it's fine, because there's like not really that many safe rooms just like scattered throughout this palace. And
yeah,
it's
usually just in the hall, like the main hall where you get those, and so that is funny. I don't remember that.
This section, there's two in this section. And
I mean, I remember this segment kind of being long, especially if you're struggling to figure out like which way to go and like what order you have to do. So I definitely get it. So yeah, probably most likely what you're saying, Tom, where they had testers and they're just like, this is a little too hard.
It's
easy
just
so unlike Persona. Like it's just like they don't do that very often.
Yeah, like you've said kind of throughout the show, like and earlier, like the endurance test is kind of part of it, and here it offsets that a little bit. I think because of, again, going back to what I was saying earlier, like I think this is a section because it has layers. It's a little bit harder than in that first room for a problem to arise, but like you could be jumping around on a higher layer, and you kind of have to just stick to the walls and hope you're finding if you're not looking at the map directly, you kind of have to hope you're finding the right sarcophagi to jump on. And so you might accidentally jump down, and there are some pretty hard personas that respawn. And so you could potentially just keep running into those battles over and over. Again, it's maybe if you're just like me and holding down R2 to run all the time, that's the problem. But regardless, I think that makes sense for, like you were saying, they must have just seen people hitting a roadblock here constantly.
Yeah. So that section, again, gameplay wise, not like a ton of notable stuff. We mentioned the third will seed fight already is in this section above the statues. You kind of got to do some tricky stuff to get around to it. But let's talk about, then you finally get out of this area and you get to the door that you recognize as Futaba's door, and you realize, okay, we got to send the calling card to open this. But before we get to the calling card section, I do want to talk about these three sort of scenes, because as you're opening these doors, you're seeing and hearing moments from her life as she kind of remembers them in reverse order, and they are really dark. Like, they're really grim. So, like, I mean, if you've been playing along with us, then you probably already know this, but obviously a content warning real quick about general sort of themes of self-harm in this palace. But, like, it's... The first one, I believe, is the people in suits reading her her mother's purported suicide note.
Yep.
That's all, like, blaming her for everything, which is, like, horrible.
Yeah, like really and that's kind of like what started her cognition of what she deserves, right? And to be in this tomb, and like, we'll find out later, of course, or pretty soon, that like the suicide note is definitely questionable at best, right? The fact, like, even if that was, like, if we want to suggest that maybe that was real and Futaba's mother actually wrote this, if you're like lawyers reading this thing and like you read this about her daughter and stuff like that, you wouldn't share that with the daughter who's like just experienced that. Like, what absolute evil thing to do to this poor little child.
Adults are terrible. That is the moral.
That is the main message of this game. Yes,
definitely that. Yeah, no, it's.
But us kids, we got to stick together.
Exactly. Aha! Woo! Yeah, it's really dark, and I think it really solidifies kind of the. I think you're already most likely. Most players would be, at least I was, and I think we all were pretty sympathetic to wanting to help Futaba at this point, even though we didn't know her too well or quite know the severity of things, especially if you've been listening to the Sojiro side of things and getting a little bit of clues of the family at large. But yeah, these moments really hit in really devastating ways, and I sort of appreciate the idea also, again, maybe it's a reach, but the idea that you're piecing together these fragments of her memory that are also distortions in themselves because they aren't exactly the truth, but you're coming at them from a place of them already being a little bit scattered, and putting them together, they still don't really feel like they fit exactly to the truth. Like, it feels like there's something more to it, and just the layers of that, I think, make this palace really, really hit in a way that, as you were saying, like, I'm grooving as I'm going along and I'm doing all these boss battles and finding will seeds and having a really good time, but it's also really sad.
But I'm really sad about it.
Yeah. So the second one that we see is the moment of Futaba's mother jumping into traffic as she sees it. And then the third one is Futaba basically being like, let's go somewhere fun, take me somewhere fun as a little kid, and her mom being like, no, I have to work, and like being mad at her. And like that's sort of the escalation, the reverse escalation of like all the things that basically the first one has distorted Futaba as seeing as like her fault because she got this letter and everything is messed up in your head. And I think what you were saying about the puzzle kind of analog of it is nice, because the other reading of it is very funny to me, which is just like they're introducing the darkest sort of information in the most childish way possible, which is like
with these sliding puzzles.
Yeah, it's like very it's a little funny otherwise, but I think you're on to something there for sure.
Yeah, with like fragmented memories and how those kind of usually are the core of a lot of people's insecurities and warped viewings of how things like really happened, especially from like childhood memories for sure.
Right. So then you hit the door, you got to send the calling card, and this is another, again, like we've talked about this a bunch already, but this is a very different palace in a lot of different ways, in very tangible ways, and one of them is the calling card, because you have to give it to her, but also she has to open the door for you to change her cognition of it, and then also, unlike most calling cards, it all happens in one day. So as opposed to saying, I'm going to send the calling card today, the day being a waste, and then the next day you go into the palace, this just all happens at once. And you get the first time that you're really interacting face-to-face with Futaba herself in the real world, and it's this very sort of stressful but also endearing moment where she opens the door, you get her to open the door for you, and then she's not in her room, and then she's in the closet, and she's like super embarrassed. Is like, I like that that's what it all comes down to, is it's not even just like, it's just like she's super, super shy and embarrassed and like doesn't want to say hi to you, and it's like, it's so cute. It's like
this
so
poor
endearing.
child.
Yeah. And then she does this really brave, hilarious moment where she just like busts out of the closet, is like,
take my heart,
do it.
It's so good. It's great. Yeah.
Oh man.
And then you like, I love that moment too, because she realizes that's like not what's supposed to happen, and she's just like, oh boy, and just like goes back into the closet.
It's so wonderful because it's the idea of like she's a very intelligent character, and obviously, as we learn pretty quickly, gets the sense of things similarly to Makoto, of like gets an understanding of things pretty quickly. But it is that really funny thing of like she came out of the closet and is like, okay, take my heart from me. It's like, what were you expecting them to just kind of like punch you in the stomach and pull it out like horror movie style. Like it's
like
one of
Invincible style. Like we're
Yeah.
just gonna absolutely tear you to shreds here.
It's
What's
like
going on?
Again, it's that nice balance here of like, oh, these are kids. Like they are dealing with extraordinarily deep and complex things, but at the same time, they are teens, and I think it balances that really cleverly and in really funny and charming ways. And yeah, it's hard not to, if you weren't already endeared by who Futaba was, it's hard not to be by the end of the scene, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And so this palace scene sort of is like weird, or the calling card scene is sort of weird and messy and like off kilter and funny, and also sort of serious at the same time. But eventually you give her the calling card and immediately go into her palace. And what follows is my second least favorite part of the palace, which is, I think it's basically, apart from like one sort of later, it's one of the only palaces that does this thing where it's like, okay, you're at 100% security level, you got through the block, it's time to steal the treasure. Oh, there's an entire another section.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
all of the like most of the shadows in it are like high level shadows.
Yeah, they're like red on fire, and
Yeah.
I remember in the original version of this game, like that was definitely like oh man, like I was ready to have a boss fight here.
And every time you fight one, Morgana's like, stop fighting these and go. And you're like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. And
Yeah,
like the
exactly.
completionist in me is just like, I want to be fighting these guys. Like,
Because I think there's a couple chests in that room as
they
well.
are, and they're like all just like snuff souls. They're not worth it at all. So
Yeah.
it's like,
I do think the royal version of this room definitely helps a lot, because I think there's like 2 grappling hook areas that help
Right.
you kind of just like get through it, and I think they probably knew that for updating the segment. They were probably like, this was probably a little unnecessary. I do think probably and we'll talk about it in a couple of minutes, because it was very interesting re-experiencing this boss fight for the first time in a little bit. I think they wanted a kind of challenging moment for people before what I would say is not the hardest of boss fights, just me personally speaking. So I kind of get what they were trying to go for, but I'm glad that they updated it to be a little more easier to get through that room.
yeah. And we can just jump along to the boss fight, because you get to her treasure room, and her treasure is this, like, it's in a sarcophagus, and then the entire top of the palace gets ripped off, and you find the boss, which is a sphinx with her mother's head that is giant and trying to kill you, and it's like super terrifying. And there's this sort of initial section of it where it will like basically just beat you up and you can't do anything. And man, on hard, this thing hits so hard. I was defending with everyone and it killed 3 people in a single attack, and I was
Wow.
like, oh my god. Like,
That's so interesting.
it's really, and it's not like I think it's like what you're saying. Let me finish up. So as this happens, the fight is interrupted by a cutscene where Futaba comes into her own palace, because she got the eye on her phone. She asked how to get into the cognitive world because she knows about it from her own mom's research, which is something you find out story-wise. And then her own shadow in her palace basically walks her through the memories that you saw earlier and has her like challenge each one of them and realize that she was misremembering all of them, and that her mom was only yelling at her in like a kind of friendly way to be like, we can do this after my research. And like, she realizes that her mom doesn't hate her, which is what she had thought. And her mom wasn't, that the suicide note was fake, right? And all this stuff. And so she goes up to the treasure room with you and is confronted by all these negative thoughts again, and has her own awakening where she gets a UFO as her persona.
Hell yeah.
And kind of steps into her role that she ends up becoming for your team, which is more not a fighter, but like the support role on the team, analyzing the enemy, figuring out what's going to happen, and she protects you from boss fight attacks. And I think what the main thing that I think your point, Barrett, and Jonathan, I'd love to hear your take on this too, but to your point about it not being very hard, is that the fight is a little bit more on rails.
Yeah,
in
it's
that
very scripted.
As you hit it when you can, you defend when it flies up, you smack it when the ballista that Futaba has summoned shoots it in the face, right? And it's just a little bit more like you don't have as much choice. It's much more of a story-driven fight of like Futaba overcoming her own misconception about what her mother thinks of her, rather than like a complex boss fight to defeat, which it's fine. It's just a different sort of thing.
Yeah, very much so.
This is probably so far the fight where I had the biggest difference between my base Persona 5 playthrough and my Royal playthrough, because I do not know how, again, it was just, I guess, the luck of the draw. I never once got hit with the despair effect during this boss fight this time. Not once. I don't know if that's a Royal change that they affected, like how much they get hit. But in base Persona 5, when I was playing for the first time, I didn't know that was going to be an effect that came up in any way. And I didn't have Makoto in my party the first time I fought her. And so no one else had an ability to get rid of the despair effect. And so if Joker got despaired, the battle was just over, and there was literally nothing I could do to fix it. And so I didn't and Makoto wasn't like at a place where she had the power or something. Like whatever happened, I had this problem where I had to go back and grind a little bit. And it was the weirdest, like off-putting fight for me the first time around, because I was like, it's not my fault. I don't know what you want me to do. But this time, I didn't get hit by despair once. It never showed up. It never was an effect I had to worry about. So I had Makoto ready to go. Never used that power once. But I agree with you guys otherwise. Like, I think the scripted nature of this battle makes it a little bit easier on the whole. But that's okay, because the purpose of it for me more is Futaba's resolution and revelations that go on,
and and her awakening. Like it's definitely mechanically not it's probably one of the least interesting boss fights, but it is made up for with all of this story stuff that's going on in a very short amount of time. And I forget if we've already hit it. No, I think we did, because it's by the time she enters the palace where, like as we're solving the puzzles, right, of unlocking these memories that Futaba thinks were real. We hear kind of her talking, like we hear her mother talking as well, and then she'll hear that in real life as well, and that makes her kind of like start doubting things. And I think we see twice, I think, both her cognition of Wakaba appear in real world and herself. I think I might be misremembering specifically, but I just wanted to this is one of the reasons why it's my favorite palace, is because of like how personal it is. She's not a villain. She's not really an antagonist. She's just someone who has this very distorted cognition of her situation and her reality, and how much depression can affect people, even more so than these villains, right, that were coming upon, because none of these villains' cognitions were strong enough to breach into the real world. And how lenient are you guys about at least spoilers for the base game of Persona 5? Or
we tend to
you try to stray away, because I know there's new players and stuff.
We can, if it works for you, if it's something you really want to address related to this section, we can maybe hold it for like the last couple minutes of the show.
All I'll say is that like we've never seen that before, like so far in this game, of her cognition being able to leave the cognitive world and like straight up appear in the real world.
Sure.
And it was just like a moment like that, where even playing for the first time in the base game, where I was like, oh, like the commentary they're making on like how much depression can affect people, which is really what struck me, because like a lot of people, I deal with a lot of mental health issues, and the way that kind of Futaba instinctually dealt with these things of shutting herself off, and not until this crazy out of real life story where she's able to change her cognition in this cognitive world and stuff. She did very specific things that were very relatable to how I handled a lot of my mental health, and so it was just it was that moment where I was like, oh wow, like they're really showing it, like they kind of understand and they're commenting on this in a way that doesn't feel at least disrespectful to me or anything, of just how much depression and certain other things can warp your cognition of the real world. And being able to see her being able to like kind of look back at these memories that she knows are jumbled because of the jumbled puzzles and all of this stuff, and being able to kind of like look those straight in the face and be like, no, this isn't what happened. And it felt very empowering. And that's a lot of why this palace stood out to me a lot. And that's why I love Futaba as a character. And it was because I loved this palace so much that people like Andrew Goldfarb are like, you need to play Persona 4 because it's a little similar to those games are a little more similar dungeon wise to what she goes through, rather than all of the villains that we fight throughout this game. And so yeah, shout out to Futaba one time for her resolve and finding the friends to help her go through that.
Yeah.
And also that big spear that she shoots her mother with.
Yeah, it's
a metaphor
wild.
in its own right.
Exactly. Yeah, just to echo that, I completely agree with you. I think the way that it's really impressive that it handles such a serious topic while also making it, like you were saying, this is also like very important lore wise, as silly as that is to focus on, but like the fact that she is seeing this cognition in the real world, like it's breaking through, is really important both on like the mental health level of her character and in what's happening in the wider story. And it doesn't
because like when that happens, you're like, that can happen?
Yeah.
What?
I totally, even though I have played this game, I was like, is she having a hallucination, or is this actually like it plays it well enough that you could think it either way at this moment, and it's really important, but it doesn't take away from any of that, like that, I think, pretty, as you were saying, honest and accurate portrayal of what some people go through when they deal with depression. Obviously it's different for every person, but I do think there are like things that are touched on with how she goes through it that are very true to life. Yeah.
And honestly, even it's a lot of relatable. Thank you for sharing all that as well. But like, it's also just relatable on a general sense of like, I think everyone has had the experience of like misremembering events and holding opinions because of kind of something you thought happened one way, and then talking to the person you were mad at and being like, oh, we just weren't on the same page or something like that. And like, so I think you're very right. It's relatable in a lot of different ways, and it handles some pretty heavy subjects alongside that stuff, while also talking about the metaverse and weird
this giant Sphinx Wakaba who likes to swipe at you and shooting her with a giant ballista. it's all wild.
We got to get through this palace because we got to wrap up because we are on the first day of the week technically right now. So you beat the boss. The palace starts to deteriorate because Futaba is just like, I'm a bail, like just leaves, and it's like, okay, cool. There was no treasure because Futaba was the treasure herself, because she realized and she can't have a shadow anymore because she had her persona awakening. So everything starts to crumble. There's this very funny moment in a cutscene where On throws Morgana so that Morgana will turn into a bus, and they all jump in and get away. That happens. The palace is done, but then you go check on Futaba, and Futaba is like completely dazed, right? And you like call to Kemi to go check on her, and Sojiro shows up and is like, oh yeah, she just gets like this, and is like totally cool about it. And is like, yeah, she'll just sleep it off for a few days and then be fine. This is one of my favorite story things about doing the palace early, is because if you do the palace late, then she's asleep for a couple days and then wakes up. If you do the palace at the beginning, Futaba has currently been asleep for me for about 15 days.
Oh, let me tell you, Tom, in my most recent playthrough, because I went to go look like where I stole the treasure. I stole the treasure on July 28th. So Futaba went to sleep for an entire month.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the biggest, like, doing that I think is hilarious. And it's the biggest like story dissonance of just like, oh yeah, she just sleeps for an entire month, and it's totally like, all right.
So
and the
funny.
interesting side effect of that is that if you don't do the palace early, you get texts from Alibaba being like, why aren't you doing this? Hurry up. And when you do the palace early, instead, this is actually the only of these palaces where like the uncertainty is justified, right? Where like you're now texting each other being like, well, we can't put all our eggs in one basket with Futaba because then what if she doesn't wake up and this doesn't happen and the deadline is getting closer and we don't know what to do and we don't know how else to fight Medjed. So like that, suddenly there is still pressure all the way through to this deadline because you don't know what's going on with Futaba still and you don't know how to help. So that's, I think, an interesting sort of balance of this palace too, is like, whereas the last palace, you got a text from Kanashira right away that was like, oh yeah, we're good. This palace is like, no, you are not good yet. Like, you do not know, which I think is interesting. But that is Futaba's palace wrapped. We are at the time we would usually wrap the show, but we're going to just, if it's cool with you guys, I think we should just rapid fire go through our week here.
I'm down.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Tom, no, I have some very important meetings after this that I have to attend.
Man. August 9th, we already talked about Jonathon. You went to the palace and then you did cleaning. I had the Kawakami ability at that point, so I was able to get massages after my palace trip, which I was very happy about.
Your special massages.
Yes, exactly.
I hate every
August
time you
9th.
say that.
August 9th was a funny day for me because it was like a really, like, for lack of a better term, blue ballsy day. Where I
don't say that after you talk about your special massage, Tom.
Okay,
please.
that's fair.
We've just been talking about how we don't date Kawakami on this show every week.
No, so I finally, since I had enough charm, I finally went and hung out with Takemi to level her up, and then she immediately just gave me her Mementos quest, and so I didn't get a level up with her. And then in the evening, I went to hang out with Mishima to level him up, and then we did that other thing that happens with Mishima, and I didn't get a level up with him. So it was literally 2 in the same day of like, shoot.
That's rough.
Yeah.
Barrett, what did you do?
On August 9th, again, the calendar only tells me so much. I don't know like what specifics I was able to do. So
Sure.
During the day, I went to Mementos. I probably grinded a lot. I was very over leveled throughout almost the entirety of this game because I was able to kind of break things with Mementos and our sweet summer child, Jose. So I was just I was always trying to be a few levels above what the recommended boss fight level was by the time I get to the boss fight. And then at night, I watched a DVD. I don't know what DVD, but the thing about House, right, is that I think the show really fell off when he drives his car into his boss's house.
I agree. That was probably the beginning.
That's where it all just went down. But yeah, that was my August 9th.
We're at the 66th minute of this show. We cannot be making house jokes.
Did you know that Cuddy is actually in the premiere of The West Wing as well? She
so on August 10th. On August 10th, I actually maxed out Kasumi. I got her to 5.
Nice.
And then I just hung out with Hifumi to get her to the next, or to get the ability to level her up.
Nice.
Jonathon?
August 10th, I sent the calling card. So that was that day. And then in the evening, I know it's not probably the most useful time for that moment, but I decided I was like, let me just get it out of the way. So I read the speed reader book because I had missed the opportunity to do it earlier. So I read the speed reader book so that now in the future, if I ever get a chance to read, it'll just be one and done. But yeah.
I think there's never not an inefficient time to do that. Speed reader book is just a good thing to have done.
Yeah.
Exactly. Anything that you can do to make later stuff easier, like that's never, that'll never be a waste of time.
Option. What about
Barrett?
you?
I also spent time with Kasumi. Don't know if I ranked her up or anything. This is a nice reminder to Dorno. Hang out with Kasumi. Hang out with your sweet doctor boy, Maruki. And then maybe hang out with that sweet boy that you should be dating, which is, why am I blanking on his name? Akechi. So yeah, I spent time with Kasumi. And then at night I bathed. I probably got some, what do you get out of that? Is that charm?
I think that's charm.
Yeah,
and I think that was a Wednesday, right? So
yeah, so I probably maybe got some guts out of that as well. Yeah. So
August 11th, I worked at the flower shop to get the Mementos request because I had the job-based one there. So I got that Mementos request, and then in the evening I leveled Mishima. Actually, nice. And whereas last week he's getting weird, I've now gotten over that hump.
Okay, good. Good.
So yeah.
I can help speed things up very easily because August 11th, 12th, and 13th during the daytime each day, I hung out and leveled up Yusuke once each day. So I got
Nice.
7,
Wow.
8, and 9 with Yusuke in a row.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
Gosh.
feel bad now.
It just, during the day, he was one of the few ones available for me during this time. I don't know if it's because I've just ranked up certain people in different ways or whatnot, but there weren't many other people to hang out with, and his was always a rank up. So I was like, well, I might as well. So,
Might as well. Yeah.
yeah, for the
Fair.
day, I did that. And then, weirdly, this day, even though it wasn't a Sunday, I got a call from Yoshida during the evening on August 11th. And so
Oh yeah,
I went to
I
go
noticed
hang-
that on my calendar, but it was already maxed, so I didn't
Yeah,
do it. But
I
interesting.
got the opportunity, and it got me a rank up with him. So I was able to, like, normally it was going to be 2 weekends from now was when I was going to rank it up, but like spoilers, this Sunday I ranked it up to max because this evening popped out
Wow.
of nowhere. Which
I
was
wonder if August 11th is any significance with like the political world in Japan. That's interesting.
yeah,
maybe.
I that's got to be it because I saw that too,
Yeah.
even though I was maxed. So that's a funny little one they just throw you for Yoshida.
Yeah,
Huh.
it was super helpful though. But yeah, Barrett, what did you get up to on the 11th?
I played billiards. Just another reminder to play billiards with your fam because that is very helpful. And then I hung out with Chihaya, which I will say I'd never ranked her, but I was trying to get like a couple of early levels to help with some social stats because, not everybody is Jonathon Dornbush when it comes to social stats. So yeah, that's
True.
what I did
You
on
do what
the
you
11th.
can, I appreciate the effort is all.
On the 12th, I worked at the convenience store to try to get the mementos request there, but did not get it that time. But Kasumi came by and said hello, which was cute.
Nice.
And then I did the second level of Big Bang Burger that evening. So I only have one more of those to go, but I don't think I have the knowledge to do it yet. I'm not sure exactly what I need there. But yeah, that's what I did.
Again, not all of us can be me. I understand. But yeah, so anyway, the day was rank 8 with Yusuke, and then the evening I went to Chihaya to ask about the Holy Stone. So I'm slowly getting through that introductory sequence. Yeah. What about you, Barrett?
Well, what day is this? Is this the 12th?
12th.
Yeah.
I spent time with Lady On. We probably, talked about some modeling stuff, and then I watched another DVD. Yeah, and I don't know which one. Probably I think I watched like of the DVDs. I do remember Mouse MD. I do remember like one of the horror ones. But yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah. August 13th, I also leveled Yusuke this day. So I think he's like 4 now.
Nice.
It's like I'm really behind on him.
You guys are way better than me when it comes to Yusuke. I think I got him to like 3 by the end of this playthrough.
It's more that he's just been available for me, like when most people haven't been. That's kind of why I've leaned into it. But yeah.
Gotcha. And then that evening I leveled Hifumi, and I wanted to level Hifumi because she unlocked Booktown for me this time, which is the location where you can go get special books, Jinbocho.
Right. Yeah.
So I've been working towards that, and I got it, which I'm happy about.
Nice. So yeah, Yusuke ranked 9 for me in the day, and then I finally started the Oya Confidant line because I had it hanging for so long. It's like I should probably just at least start this. So I did the first one for that this evening.
Nice.
On August 13th, I did the correct thing, and I just spent the day with my boy Ryuji, and we just played video games, and it was great.
Good stuff. So you spent the day and the evening then?
Yeah, all it says
Perfect.
that day is game with Ryuji, and I was like,
That's a good
I guess
day.
we just spent all day playing video games. That's hilarious.
That's the Saturday I want, man. August 14th, there's a home shopping channel. I got the gift set. The other thing was like healing and SP items that I didn't care about.
I did that because I feel desperate for SP items. So
That's totally fair.
Yeah.
SP, this run, I am feeling a lot less desperate for SP items than I usually did on my last 2 playthroughs. Usually I would always go for SP stuff.
Yeah.
Then there was the smoothie, and then I worked at the store again, the convenience store again, and I got the mementos request, which means I've gotten all 3 of the work-based mementos requests,
Nice.
and I have Takemi's mementos request, which means that next week I am almost certainly going to mementos.
You're just pro gaming over here.
like it.
Letting these all build up and knock them all out.
That's what I
Nice.
like to do. Is I like to stack all the mementos requests that I can. And then that evening I hung out with Chihaya because I was just trying to get to the like confidant boosting one that we've already mentioned.
Yeah.
I did not know there were job-based mementos tasks, so I should probably look into those soon. But yeah, I ranked up Kasumi to rank 4 today, so I did hang out with Kasumi. And we went shopping for glasses, I believe it was.
Yeah, for her dad.
Yeah,
You got some hot red glasses for that man.
That was a fun one too, because it was a lot of questions, but it was such quick succession to go through, which was a lot of fun.
Now my note from last week is relevant again, which was glasses is so fun.
Oh yeah, there we go. Mystery solved. And then that was the evening I max ranked Yoshida because of the help from that midweek call. What about you, Barrett?
I worked at the flower shop, probably got some kindness out of that. And that's another area where you can like run into Yusuke after working in a flower shop, and he's like, "Oh, you work here?" And you can get a couple of friendship points off of that. Just that came to mind because I remember y'all talking about that a couple weeks ago. And then at night, I read at LeBlanc. I don't know what I read, but it was probably really helpful. Oh, you know what I probably did? Since I played billiards earlier in the week, I probably read the Pro Billiards book, which helps me the next time you go to billiards. Yeah. And that's another reminder, Jonathon, that you can read at LeBlanc at night. But then also, you found the right chair. Yeah. And then also, I don't know if y'all have brought up the crossword puzzles that you can do at LeBlanc at night.
Not really.
It's about them often, but I do them every time as well.
I that's like one of the parts where like Alyssa will come over and like kind of help me and stuff like that, because we just love going through crossword puzzles. So shout out to the crossword puzzles one time.
Yeah, those are a lot of fun.
The crossword puzzles can be really funny too, because like there's one usually they're like pretty simple, and then occasionally it'll be like changes with the seasons, and the answer is like wardrobe, and you're like, come on game. Come on game.
Yeah, they're so obvious, and then when they're not, it's like, oh no, why did you? There was no ramp up to this. It is either or. Tremendous.
Fun fact though, you can actually get clues about those by talking to Sojiro.
Oh.
A lot of the time, Sojiro will talk about whatever subject around the crossword that it is. Cool. Sometimes, not always, but sometimes. Yeah. Final day. Right?
Yes.
Or did we? Yes.
August 15th.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. August 15th, Jim. I committed to a thing the evening before, and I went to Booktown, which I had just unlocked, with Makoto, and we ran into Hifumi. So it was great timing.
That's what I did too that day.
I believe I also on August 15th it says time with Makoto, and I probably also did that. And let me tell you, as someone in my first playthrough of Royal, where like I actually spent a lot of time with Hifumi because I did not know she existed in my playthrough of the vanilla version. Or I knew she existed because the game's like, hey, go hang out with this person, but I just never spent time with her. Spending a lot of time with Hifumi, where I was like, oh man, maybe I want to romance Hifumi, and then like also having the struggles with like, but I really love Makoto, and then having this interaction where you're hanging out with Makoto, then you run into Hifumi, and I was like, oh no.
Yeah. I'm not even close to romancing either of them, but it felt like that sort of situation still. It did feel like, oh no.
Oh, the two really smart girls, no.
Right.
But yeah.
That's also funny, is you also got that, Jonathon, because I was like, so ready to get Hifumi up so I could unlock Booktown, and then this event happened, and I was like, I would have gotten it anyway, dang it.
Yep. I didn't know Booktown existed. This is my first time. So Booktown's great. Here, I'll do a real quick aside on Booktown. You can go back to Booktown during a day. Okay.
You will meet the shopkeeper who's like, our books are very advanced, so here's this dumb person book I can sell you. And if you read the dumb person book, then you can go back to him and be like, hey, I'm smarter than you thought. And he'll be like, oh, okay. And he'll sell you a bunch more books. Huh. And then I believe if you read all of those books, he'll sell you one more book that's like super advanced. And like, I believe that's how it works. But it's just good things to read.
Cool. Yeah, I had no idea. But what did you do that evening? Sorry.
That evening I leveled Mishima again. So I'm like 8 with him. I'm almost done.
Very cool. Yeah, so that was Booktown for me, and yeah, it was the very funny Makoto and Hifumi interacting, and they hit it off so well. It's like you're not even there. It's a great moment for that. And then in the evening, because kindness is the only thing that's low for me, so I just did cleaning at the shop while Kawakami did, I believe, curry for me.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
At least we know Dorno's like at least kind of like an asshole still
I'm not
in this
kind.
game, you know.
Really
This night I went back to billiards, so I assume that when I
Yeah.
read at LeBlanc the night before, I went back and fully ranked up some of the skills that you can get while playing billiards, which again is very useful for the future. So,
nice.
you know, I know darts is like the main thing because you know you get to play with specific people. The convenient thing about billiards is that even when new members are added, your technical ranking is just for your party as a whole. So when like new people come in, you don't have to keep redoing billiards over and over again. Unlike with darts, where you have to play with like specific people to level up baton pass stuff. So yeah, very useful stuff.
Billiards is something I haven't even done this game yet, and I know it's useful to do for that exact reason, increasing your technical stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's it. I think we're good. It's been a packed episode. Barrett, thanks so much for joining us. I'm really glad we could get you on here to talk about the lovely girl Futaba, who is only going to become even more special, I think, as the game goes on. We're going to learn about where her story goes next week, obviously. Jonathon, maybe you finished Yoshida, so maybe we will talk about Yoshida's story next week if we have time.
Yeah, we can discuss how hard it was to make sure he stuck to his beliefs. But yeah, we can definitely do that for sure. And yeah, Barrett, thank you for joining us. We should definitely have you back on once we're a little deeper into like Futaba's storyline, so we can dig a little bit into.
I would first of all thank you for having me on. This is such a cool project idea. Again, the longest spoiler cast of all time, and as someone who, when I was replaying Persona 5 Royal earlier this year, I was like looking for any like kind of Royal content of just like like YouTube videos breaking down themes and stuff like that. And when y'all started this podcast, I was like, oh, this is the thing that I've been looking for. So thank you guys for making the show. It's truly special. And yeah, I would love to be on again. I'm just throwing a date out there, February 3rd, for no particular reason other than it's my birthday on February 3rd.
Of course.
And so, and then, yeah, I would love to be back to talk about Futaba and why you should not date her, but why she is kind of the best female character in the game and all that stuff, and is one of the very few S tier characters I would put in that ranking of Persona 5 Royal characters. So,
well, I would agree with that assessment. Before we go, though, let's do our Persona pseudonym and pop quiz. Jonathon,
hello.
Let's kick it off with you.
Yeah, let's start with the Persona pseudonym. I have two just in case one of them turns out to be easier. I think one's very easy, so I'll save that one for a second. The first one I have, of course, I'm sticking on Futaba's Palace related personas. So this one is the Thief of Tablets.
Oh, I know this one.
Do you have any idea, Barrett? I know it's been.
I'm terrible at this game. I love this game, and I love like Tom nailing it almost every week. But I'm so bad at it.
Before that one, then I'll give you the second one I had in mind. Cavern Snake Man.
I can see him. I can see him because he literally is like a man with the snake at the he's I could not tell you the name of that persona.
Is Cavern Snake Man Naga?
Yes.
And his Thief of Tablets Anzu.
Yes, you are correct.
Hey!
You got 2 for 2.
Wow, 2 for 2.
Nice.
Woo!
You did it well. This gives me trophy test vibes, and I enjoy it quite a bit. But yeah.
Yeah, that Anzu is one that stuck with me of Thief of Tablets. I don't know why, but anyway.
Nice.
Our pop quiz for you viewers at home, you can listen along. Because we went through the palace this week, I'm going to be doing another treasure one, but I'm trying to switch it up every week, so I'm not doing exactly what I did the palace before. So let me find my notes of what my question is. Okay. So as last couple times I've asked you which one of these items is not a treasure that you picked up within the palace. That's like those gold things that you just sell to EY with no questions asked for no reason for money. This week, which of these treasures is from Futaba's palace? Oh. So only one of the following 4 is real, and you guys have to tell me which, either in the comments or on Twitter. A gold ankh, a pharaoh mask, a raw scepter, or a scarab charm. Those are your choices. Gold ankh, pharaoh mask, raw scepter, or scarab charm. Let us know in the comments on youtube.com. Dornology channel, YouTube channel. I'm at Tom R. Marks on Twitter. Jonathan's at JM Dornbush. You can email us at dornology@gmail.com. You can even tweet at Sadboy Barrett. He just because he deserves the answers too. Barrett, do you have anything to plug before you go?
Yeah, of course, you can follow me at Sadboy Barrett. I usually retweet whenever Persona 5 Royal is on sale, which it is all the time. So for people who are like, well, I just want to play the base game because it's on the PS5 free collection, PS Plus or whatever, it's like, Royal is the much better version. It's always on sale. Just play the definitive version for the love of God. So yeah, you can find me there tweeting about Persona 5, Star Wars, all that stuff. You can also, I work for Kind of Funny. You can find all of our stuff over on youtube.com/kindoffunny, youtube.com/kindoffunnygames. Something that I've been on recently, Snowbike Mike, my coworker, and I have been playing through the Metal Gear Solid series for the very first time. So you can catch that typically every Thursday at twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames. We're a few hours into Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty, and that has been a entire roller coaster of emotions, and it's been a very fun time experiencing that world for the very first time. So yeah, check that out. Also got some projects over on YouTube coming up soon, and also check out youtube.com/Barrett Courtney, where I saved all of my entire playthrough of Persona 5 Royal that I streamed through on Twitch. Nice. So I recorded every one of those streams, uploaded them to YouTube. So if you're also looking for other breakdown stuff, because like when we get to big moments and big palaces, I usually would take the time to like kind of pause, let's break it down with the chat, let's talk about everything. So if you're looking for specific moments and stuff like that, you can check that out as well. And I also, the last video that I uploaded was me making a bunch of tier lists, I think ranking the palaces, all of the characters, and all of the music. So that was a really fun stream to do as well.
Cool. Beyond that, if you like this show, thank you, Jonathan.
You're welcome.
Please give us a like, subscribe, leave a review on any podcasting platform of your choice. It really does help us out. And because Barrett is a listener of the show, but he's on this episode, that means we're going to have one fewer listen this week. So exactly one.
I'm not going to listen back to this episode because I hate listening to my own voice. So yeah.
So that means exactly one person out there right now has to send this to one of their friends to make up for that one view. So please do that. Otherwise, we will not be able to eat. No, that's not true. We'll be fine.
Speaking of eating, let me tell you about a great new... No, we're not sponsored by
Anyway, thank you very much, everybody. It's getting very late, though. We went long this episode. It's time to go to bed. So see you next time.